The next two sessions, we have Stephane and Gunthar who are going to share with you some best practices to keep in mind as you're building with the APIs. Stephane is going to cover two common beginner stumbling blocks that you might run into when developing with the APIs, and then Gunthar is going to be talking about some core principles and best practices on UE design. And I just realized I don't really introduce who they are, but Stephane is one of our core API engineers here from Zurich, Switzerland, and Gunthar is our lead UE designer for syndication. So with that, I'll give it to Stephane.
Hi. So I'm going to talk about latency and error handling. Those are the two issues most API developers encounter when they start using the YouTube API. It's not that bad as long as you're aware of that in the beginning. So I'm going to introduce that. First, latency. What is latency? If you look at this screenshots, you'll see on the top screenshot search result. And on the right, you'll see the same video, but a view page of the video. If you're very careful and you have good eyes, you will see that on the search result, there are 40,913 views. On the view page, there are 41,000 views. It doesn't look like much, but it's still a difference. This difference is there because when you search, we want search to happen very quickly. Search has to be fast, and many people search, so we have indexed everything. We have everything in one place, so we don't need to access the database every time we return a search result. But this has repercussions in the website and in the API. It doesn't look like much in this case because, well, it's only a few, less than 100 view count difference. But if it's your video and it went from 1 to 100, you're going to care. So, as I said before, the results are cached. So how fresh are those results that we return in the API? So just like in the website, when you search, you get results that might be slightly out of date. When you actually look at your own videos, you see the latest results because we want to make sure you see everything you need to modify those videos. So search, out of date, looking at your own videos, up to date. Everything that is not a video is always going to be up to date. We only cache videos because that's what people actually search. That's what's actually accessed very often. Now, if we want to get into details, how stale can a video information grow? When you upload a video, the data usually appears in the search index pretty quickly. So after a few minutes to 1 hour, you should be able to find your own video in the search index. It does take a little while. And it's not always predictable, but we try and make sure it's fast. Now, if you change a title or description, it takes a little longer. It's usually not that important. So we take our time and it can take up to 1 day. What can take a very long time, though, is statistics changes, like the video count that I showed you before. That can take more than 1 day. It can even take a week for videos that are accessed very infrequently. And we have to do that to be able to serve that many results quickly. Now, what you can do, first ask yourself, does freshness really matter for me? Because most of the time, it doesn't matter for the users. They want to find videos and they don't care whether the view count is actually the latest information. They just want to see those videos. So it's fine in most cases to have slightly out of date video metadata. It's not fine when you edit. So freshness matter when you edit. So we made sure that when you access your own videos, you see the latest data. So one good trick is to access everything that you want to be absolutely fresh through the URL that contains user/default. So John explained what default means in the API. It means it's your own video. It's the video of the user that logged in. Another trick is that make sure you don't search. You might be searching your own videos. And in this case, it will hit the video index, which might be out of date. So if you want to have the latest information, if you want to have all your videos, make sure you don't specify any search parameter, any reordering parameter. Otherwise, you might get slightly out-of-date results. And lastly, we're very actively working on that. We're making sure to reduce those delays or even eliminate them. So stay tuned. We'll announce that in the groups or in a blog post. I'm going to switch to error handling. Error handling is difficult in all cases. In the API case, it's not that difficult, but you need to remember about it. That's the tough part. Not everything works always. Errors in the API are based on HTTP errors, so you need to know the way HTTP errors are handled. You need to know how they're defined, and if you look at RFC 2616, you'll see everything that we used to base our API errors. Most API errors are defined in the YouTube documentation, but it's best if you understand the global idea. So I'm going to talk mostly about a few error codes that you'll find in our API. And the error codes are defined again in the RFC. And in this example, the error code is 400. This is the first piece of information you have. And this is usually the most interesting piece of information. The first errors I'd like to talk about is 404 not found. You've all seen that in your browser. In the case of the API, it doesn't always only mean that you've mistyped the URL. It might mean that you've written a URL that is correct, but what it points to doesn't exist or doesn't exist anymore. Like you have a valid URL for a video or a playlist, but the owner of the video or the playlist decided to delete this. So all of a sudden, you'll get 404 for something that used to work. So be ready for that. Make sure you check every time the return code, or make sure you catch the exception if you're writing this using a client library, because it can happen at any time. All you can do in this case is let the user know that the resource has disappeared. Another interesting error is 401. So John explained how to actually log in to the API. Well, 401 means you need to log in. Whether you use client login or auth sub, you need to log in. 401 might also mean that you need to log in again. So for example, let's imagine you use client login and the login token, which is temporary, has expired. So we'll return 401 and you will need to log in again. We might also decide to return 401 because we think that somebody has been misusing your authorization token, so we want to make sure it's still you. It can happen at any time. Again, be ready for it. And every time you see 401, ask the user to log in. Most errors I've shown before start with 400. This one starts with 500, which means it's our fault. Something is wrong with our API. We're trying to make sure it doesn't happen, but I know it still happens. So when we've got a problem, or when we're doing maintenance, we return 403 service unavailable. What you can do about that is retry once. Maybe it was a fluke, maybe you'll get lucky, but just once. After that, all you can do is tell your user that there's something wrong and blame it on us. On our side, we'll make sure it happens it doesn't happen too often. We're very actively working on that again to avoid those errors. The error you'll see most often, I think, is 400 bad requests. So when you try and update metadata, video metadata, Maybe the title is too long, maybe you forgot the title, maybe there are too many keywords, maybe there are too few keywords. So every time you try something that is slightly wrong, you'll get 400 bad requests. What you can do is check your request, check the error message. So when we send error, we set an error message body, not just a short response. And it can be very interesting. So let's imagine you sent video metadata that contained a title and some keywords. And we return this error message, it's XML. And it's a lot of information, very useful information if you know how to use it. So the first thing you should look at is the location. The location tells you what is wrong. In this case, you know that the keywords are wrong and the title is wrong. In your application, you can use this information to tell your user, here's what is wrong. Please fix those fields. The second step you can make is to look at code. Code tells you exactly what is wrong with the field. So in the case of the keywords were too long. In the case of the title was missing. So you can pause this error code and display it to your user in the correct language or in the correct way for your application. We list all those errors in the reference documentation. It's very good if you are able to handle all error codes. But we do add new error codes now and then. I'm going to stop here. I could say a lot more about error handling, but I'd like to give you some time the occasion to discuss whatever you want to discuss about error handling, or to discuss how things go wrong in API if you ever try to connect to YouTube. And I'm sure you had some experience. So any questions? Yeah?
On that location that uses XPath, is that the node where the error occurs?
Yes, in this case, it's not really a node. It's a node, text node.
Text node,
Exactly.
element.
Yeah.
This is that. I guess there's a size limitations for the value, the text for keywords.
Yeah, exactly. That's just it. That's what it's saying. So we try to be as precise as possible.
It's nice to use XPath because we can programmatically get into that node and.
That is exactly. Yeah, that is exactly the idea, that you can go through the XML and find out where the error happened. Any other questions? Yeah?
When you're using one of the languages you guys have for an SDK to talk to the API, I presume these errors are accessible through the handlers that the SDKs offer?
So when we're using when we're using the SDK that we publish for the API, are those error codes available? Yeah, the error codes are available. So all HTTP error codes correspond to an exception. And those error codes are very specific error codes in XML. I'm not sure all client libraries handle them, but they will. It's definitely one of our goals.
But more importantly, the metadata relating to the error with, for example, the code that we can return to the user is what I'm interested in.
The metadata, what is the metadata?
The relating information to the error. So if the error is, say, it's too long, unless you return that actual string to the SDK, you'll just know you got an error. You won't know what it is.
So we do return that to the SDK, and the SDK, all SDKs give you access to this information. Yeah,
Okay.
but usually they give access to this information as a text. Very advanced SDKs will give you access to this information as XML. I'm not sure all SDKs are ready for that. Anything? Yeah?
If I wanted to receive the latest information about a video that's not mine, is there a difference between doing the list version, where if I get the users, if I list the users' videos, as opposed to I search the users' videos?
So if you're accessing a video that's not yours, is there a difference between accessing them through a video search or accessing them through, I guess, users/username/uploads? Currently, no, but we're thinking about it. Something will happen soon. Okay, I'll give the podium to Gunthar, who will discuss best practice in user experience.
So hey, my name's Gunthar. I'm the user experience lead for syndication, and we've got sort of the short programs here today. So I've only got about 15 minutes to run through some stuff. So basically, what I'd like to do is cover a few sort of just speak briefly on a few core principles and guidelines that we like to advocate for designing the experience for users using the APIs. And then really what I want to do is do some live demos of just some things that are out there that are kind of cool, that maybe will inspire you or whatnot as you go out and design your applications. So basically, there's a few things that we ask people to bear in mind, or suggest that you do when you're designing the user experience using our APIs. One, of course, is to build the right application for your platform. And as pointed out earlier, we're trying to expand to a wide variety of different platforms that people might be using. So you might be considering doing something on the web. Increasingly, we're seeing people do stuff on mobile, also moving on to other types of devices, cameras, TVs, set-top boxes, and that sort of thing. And all those different the platform you're working for will, of course, define the key sorts of types of features that you'll want to include. I'd like to be able to go in depth more into that, but I'll have to move quickly in order to get to some demos, but something just to bear in mind while you're doing it. The other thing, of course, is it's really key to provide discoverability for your application, make sure people can get to it right away no matter where you're from, or rather where they're coming from. And then, of course, ways to navigate through the content. And there's two key things that we do here at YouTube. One is providing a focused discovery of content, i.e. search, right? Make sure people can search and get to things if they're really specifically interested in something. And then the other one, of course, that people love to do at YouTube is the sort of random walkthrough stuff, right? You might get a URL forwarded to you by a friend, you might come across it on a website or something like that and then dive deep into the content, and who knows where the path is going to take you. You might see one thing and then see something else unrelated. So if you want to drive traffic and keep people sort of interested in your app, that's another key thing to bear in mind. Provide means for them to easily move on to the next piece of content. Okay? Okay, on we go. So, and then some key principles to keep in mind. And those being, of course, as talked about in other discussions we've had here, ensure a great video viewing experience. Make sure people can get to the content, but also make sure that it performs well, that there's access to the controls that you might need in order to, look into, or rather to manipulate the video, moving back and forth between videos, pausing, stopping, skipping, all that sort of thing. Jeff Stearns, who's coming up next, will be talking about the Chromeless Player, which basically gives you the ability to create the complete UI and control for the actual playback itself, right? All we deliver is just a video, and then you get to determine what goes on that video and how people can move around in it. And that's something that can be done well or not well, so something very much to bear in mind. Of course, making it personal. We really want everybody to be able to, you can focus here the way you access content through subscriptions, playlists, all that sort of thing. Make sure that you allow people to do that. And encouraging community interaction. We've got a vibrant community on YouTube, but there's also tons of other communities out there, and that's one of the cool things with APIs. Like, you might be working within a community of your own. So how do you access and encourage people to participate in that? And then, of course, experiment and push the edges. Whatever, do cool stuff. Come on, yeah, why not? So with that in mind, I'd like to just jump into a couple of examples of some things that are pretty fun and that we find sort of interesting out there. So Hunter talked a little bit about this one earlier, and this is definitely, go away, one of our faves around here, and that's this notion of, that's the Dippity timeline known as TimeTube. So by searching on a video, I can bring up this timeline. The neat thing about it is that it sort of shows the progress of, say, a net meme, like, say, Chocolate Rain, right? So as we start back here all the way on the side, we can see the core seed video that started the whole crazy thing off. And then as we proceed along, we get all the way across. We can see responses sort of ranked by the amount of views that they've had and other sort of relevant factors. And they've done a number of interesting things within the interface here, playing the videos in line, like this. If I take a look, you can see we've got the embed player in here. I can see it all in context. I can manipulate the scale at which I'm viewing things. So actually taking a look and seeing, say, what's been happening in the last 6 months, what's been happening in the last year, and so on, and stuff like that. Doing searches on all sorts of stuff, anything I want, pretty much throughout the corpus. Interesting ways that they've sort of like gradated the value, or rather the pertinence of the content. So something to think about when you do it in there. All right. Going back to the notion of sort of designing for the particular platform, as well as including and encouraging community interaction. I Google, there's tons of gadgets out there. I'd like to just show sort of 2 of them to you. One of them is the official gadget, which we have, as you can see there on the left side of the screen. And that's sort of an attempt to make a little snapshot of the actual site itself, right? So what's happening recently, a good way to get updates and sort of see in miniature what's going on YouTube. So you've got stuff where automatically it comes up with recently featured. I can search. So let's search for ukuleles, because ukuleles are popular. Find a bunch of ukuleles. I can sort of sift through the catalog, watch a video in line, get some information, see whatever it is, and then leaving links to go out to whatever the channel or a watch page might be on YouTube, right? So looking at another one, I can also say step through the videos. We've got a way here, so you like progress. So it's like, oh, take a little preview, see what the next video is. All those are types of things you can think about when you've got a set of content that you might want people to navigate through, right? Focused content, allow them to step through, sort of preview a little bit, almost go on to the next one, and stuff like that. On the right here, we have something that's a little more focused, and that's this elections widget, which was developed by, I can't remember off the top of my head, but is a sort of cool election tracking software. And what it does is it actually brings in and combines not just videos, but also news feeds, stuff that's coming in from blogs, interesting stuff, the ability to choose and track candidates, but puts it all right there at your fingertips. So whatever's come up most recently plays, and I can play it back right here, and then also step through and take a look at the recent videos that have come through all about politics. So if I wanted to see what the latest statement is, I've got this right here at hand. And next, a fun application that's been, you might have seen, this one called Fast Search, which takes advantage of the API to make a sort of inline search and viewing experience. So in this case, let's go do my ukulele search again. You pull them up, and then I just sort of drag and drop player, right? So if I actually grab one of these videos and pull it over into the player, it'll start playing right away. And then a quick playlist, or we would call it a quick list creator, where I can actually scroll through and choose. Let's just grab a number of random videos here, plop them down in this sort of playlist timeline builder, rearrange them on the fly, and click in to get them to play. And then as you can see here, he's taking advantage of the Chromeless player and has come up with an implementation that works. And for his case, we've got, in this case, our slide viewer to move through the content, pop it through there, and sit and watch the video. Another thing that he's done here, grab some keyframes to sort of show maybe one way to sort of create a little Insta preview. And last, and probably close to one of my favorites, which Hunter briefly touched on earlier, is Spore. And I won't spend too much time playing in Spore because we could go do that for hours. But to give you a sense of sort of how this works. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with the application. New game coming out. One component of it is to make little monsters, creatures that you'll then populate a world with, and they'll interact and do all this artificial life type stuff, right? So in this case, I've made this little creature using the creature creator, and all the parts and all that sort of thing are here. I painted it and skinned it and that sort of thing. And I like to take it for a test drive. When I take it for a test drive, we come over here, and I can, do all this fun stuff, make him jump around and dance and la-di-da-di-da. But as I'm doing that, there he goes, spazzing out. what I can do is record a movie. And now I'm actively recording whatever is taking place on screen. Make him jump. See, this is one of the fun ones. If you can whistle at him, whoop, hey, come back, look at me. All right, there we go. We'll keep this short. So he's done a bunch of stuff. And immediately when I hit the button to stop recording, up pops the YouTube upload query. So if I hit upload, checking, login failed. Actually, that's because I hadn't set in my password. And now, there we go. So we're uploading the video to YouTube. Not quite sure exactly how long this one will take. I tried to keep that short. But one of the things being emphasized here, and sort of in talking about with the whole thing, it's key when we talk about that notion of discoverability. It's about placing things in context, and there's so many neat things you can do. I frankly think the upload. Oh, there we go. My video has been uploaded. So they've also got an internal sort of share with a friend thing, which doesn't utilize our tools. It's their own thing. But when I go back and actually leave the app, I don't save. You may or may not have seen the example of this on the Spore channel now. What's happening is that all these uploads from users are appearing on the actual official EA page, right? So not only does it appear on my page, in my videos, but it also is added to sort of the community buzz building space there on the Spore page. This is sort of something that's working with partners, but will be the type of thing that would go to wider user base in the future. We won't do the other examples that Hunter was citing earlier. That's a little. You guys can do that one on your own. So there we go. That's just. Sorry, it's really quick here. A lot more on each and every one of those points I brought up, but some of those key things to think about. If you're interested in checking out some of these, there's the various links of what we're looking at. And then the other thing is we've also got a bunch of case studies and best practices up at code.google.com. And it's actually APIs, YouTube /case studies. And those and a bunch more listed there if you want to go check those out. So there we go. Fast and quick, but have fun out there. And yeah, questions?
How are the videos syndicated to the Spore's channel?
How are they syndicated to Sports Channel? So because of, that's a sort of one of the partner arrangement things. So because you're using their tool, it also, they have a sort of halfway a shared, they can, it goes within, EA can show it on their channel and then they can also monetize against it. So that's one of the ways we work with our partners to allow that to happen.
What's the process for exploring doing something like that?
Sorry, not through me, but I'm sure one of the other people can tell you about that. Christine, would you know who to talk to about that sort of thing? The question being sort of what's the process by which one could look into these sort of arrangements, i.e. with EA and Spore, where we've got this upload embedded into the application, and then we've got a community building feature on the site. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
When using the Chromeless interface, is there a way to interact with the video based on the time that the player is at? So for example, if you want to be able to put a bunch of different events that key off as the video hits different times, is that available through the API?
I don't think we can do that sort of keyframe action yet, but Jeff, okay, so see, there we go. He's the man who's going to talk about this and knows it all. So he'll be able to get through all those next. Anything else? All right, cool, guys. Look forward to seeing what you make.